Hi guys, it's Haley. Welcome back to my channel. This video I actually have been debating doing for quite some time, and the only reason that I didn't originally do it and have been playing with the idea is just because I don't know that I have a sufficient list, but it's one that I definitely want to make. So this video is going to be horror movies that have either scared me a lot at some point, like movies that used to creep me out, or movies that still creep me out to this day. Like I mentioned, I just feel like this list is really short. There's not a lot of movies that really scare me or anything like that. I've been watching horror movies for, I would say, honestly, like 75% of my life. So they just don't really scare me anymore. So a lot of the movies on this list are movies that used to scare me too. And by this, I don't mean like movies that scared me as a kid. As you know, when you're a kid, I feel like a lot more horror movies have the potential to scare you. These are starting off from like preteen years to teenage years, and maybe they don't necessarily creep me out anymore, but there are some on the list that still to this day like make me super uncomfortable and creep me out. Please comment down below some horror movies that scare you or creep you out still, and also movies that you think might creep me out. I do like the sensation of being creeped out by a movie. It just doesn't happen very often anymore. Also, some of the movies on this list you might think are dumb. That's totally okay. Everyone has a different opinion of horror. So let's get started. I do only have 6 movies on this list, so I'm just going to be counting down from 6. The order of these movies isn't like, they're technically not in order from least scary to most. The only thing is number 1 is going to be the most scary to me. The other ones are just kind of all mixed in there. I don't think there's a particular order. So number 6 is actually Sinister, and I don't know if it's necessarily Sinister 1 or 2 that creeps me out more. Both of them creep me out, and this was honestly like when I was in high school, my best friend and I would always go see them in theaters, and both of us afterwards would be like, what if Bagul, like the guy, the ghost demon thing in Sinister, was like in her room, like when we'd have sleepovers, or we would be like, oh, imagine if he was there. And even sometimes late at night, if I would get up to get water or anything, I would picture, there's a scene in one of the movies where there's a little boy, I think he's going to get water or something too, and he goes down the stairs, and once he's down there, there's like a hand on his shoulder, and I always think about that, and I get like, ooh, creepy. I guess I wouldn't say always, because I honestly I don't get that creeped out by them anymore, or by the movie anymore. But it lasted probably until I was like 20 that movie really creeped me out. And to this day, when I watch the scenes, the home video scenes, if you've seen Sinister, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They make me uncomfortable. I love them. I think they are like amazing, and I think they're so good, but they creep me out. Like they make me like, woo. So that's number 6. Number 5 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and this movie no longer scares me in any capacity. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. I have Leatherface tattooed on my entire calf. You already know that if you've seen my tattoo video talking about tattoos that I have. I love Leatherface. He's one of my favorites, but as a child, preteen, like I was like 11, oh my god, this movie was like one of the top for me. In fact, after I would get done watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like any version of them, but specifically the 2003 one, I would sleep with a pair of scissors under my pillow because I was so horrified of not only Leatherface, but even like someone else doing that stuff to me. I thought it was one of the most brutal, scary movies I've ever seen. And to this day, I feel like if any horror movie scenario was real, which I wouldn't say it's real, but it is based on the whole Ed Gein thing, which is horrifying. But if it was, you know, like a real situation, I think it would be one of the top scariest ones. And one thing is, a lot of horror movies, even cheesy bad ones, would be scary, or, you know, it would be a scary situation you wouldn't want to be in if it was real. So that's a given, of course. You know, like most movies that you could watch and be like, that's not scary. If it was real, of course you'd be freaked out by it. But this one I think is just one of the top. I think it's one of the worst. So, but like I said, I no longer feel any fear or anything when I watch this movie. I've probably seen it more times than most movies. Like, it's one of my most watched for sure. So it really doesn't do anything to me anymore. Next on this list is The Strangers, and again, this movie really doesn't creep me out too much anymore, but as a tween and as a teen even. Like I was like 14 and 15 and this movie still really, really creeped me out. Also, I guess, I don't know if this counts, I do cosplay makeup looks for like horror movies and stuff, and I have done both of the Girls from the Strangers, and the last one I did was pretty recent. It was like a year ago or something like that. When I did the makeup look for it, as dumb as it sounds, anytime I would walk by a mirror, I did it really late at night. It was like 3 a.m. I got a little creeped out. Like I felt like all the hairs on my like arms and back and everything were standing up. And I did like a little video with some of the songs playing from the movie, and again, I just felt a little uneasy. I don't know why. I mean, when I watch that movie now, I don't really feel like creeped out or anything, but as a child, yeah, it was not good. So little backstory or story time. When I was about 14 or 15, my dad and I lived in this little townhome, and it was really cool. Our backyard actually was like a forest, like lots of trees. There was wild animals. It was really, really cool. Well, we had a screen door and we had a really, really thin curtain that was like really sheer and it didn't really cover anything. Long story short, I used to sleep in that room that the sliding glass door was in. Like that was where I slept. And one night my dad and everyone who lived in that apartment went out. Like they were out all night and it was just me. And for some reason, I decided, hey, I'm going to put on the Strangers, so I creeped myself out. Oh my God, I don't think I slept a wink. I was so horrified I was going to see that potato sack man like in that sliding glass door. I was so terrified. And also, it might have been my imagination, but I felt like I kept hearing like rumbling around the house. It was not a good night for me. And to this day, I feel like I still like get not creeped out, but I'm like, oh man, like I see why I was scared. That was not a good time. So although I love this movie to death now, and it's also one of my favorites, it did really used to scare me. How many movies have I listed? I feel like I'm like forgetting something. Awkwardly stares at the camera. Okay, well, the next movie on this list is the Green Inferno. And this movie I have talked about on this channel before, and I wouldn't recommend watching it if you're not someone who likes really gory, kind of messed up horror. I would even consider it a little bit of shock horror, although not the worst. This movie, honestly, if you've ever seen it, you probably know why. It's intense. And this movie doesn't scare me necessarily. Like when I watch it, I'm not creeped out or uncomfortable, but I have had a nightmare before after watching it. And I think it's just a situation that happens in this movie. To this day, I'm like, oh my God, if that happened to me, I don't think I would survive. And sometimes I even think about it. Like, it's not the type of horror movie that's a jump scare movie by any means. Like, it's just brutal and, like, gross. So, again, I just would probably rather die than actually be in that situation. Thought of the movie I missed. Not that these are in any order, so it doesn't matter. But the next movie is Hereditary. And this movie is a psychological horror film. A lot of people were psychologically creeped out after they saw it, including me. This movie made me uncomfortable the whole watch time, but the whole movie itself wasn't scary at all. But there was one scene, and if you've seen this movie, you probably know the scene. The mom, Toni Collette, the actress who plays her, is like crawling on the ceiling, or she's like floating on the ceiling upside down. And when I first saw it in theaters, I was like, ooh, that's like a creepy scene. And the second time that I saw it in theaters, actually later that same night, I woke up in the middle of the night to go get a glass of water or something. And the living room was pitch black. And I just thought about like, what if, not even her, but what if someone was just doing the exact same crawl that she did upside down on the ceiling? And I got so uncomfortable that I ran back in my room. I felt like I was like a little 6-year-old girl. I haven't had that happen in so long, so I found it really cool and strange that a movie has even done that to me in a while. So I honestly do like the sensation of like mildly being scared like that, so I wish more movies did have something that just stuck with me, like a scene that really engraved in my mind and like actually creeped me out, but unfortunately it's pretty rare. So number 1 on the list, and this is the movie that actually to this day creeps me out. Like when I watch it, I am uncomfortable. Afterwards, I'm like glancing around my room just like as a what if. Also, anytime I watch this movie late at night, I make sure I have already let my dogs out, that I don't have to even get up and brush my teeth, because I just want to be in bed and go to bed after I watch this movie, which is very rare for me. I watch horror movies before I go to bed. So, and I have done it with this one before, but it creeps me out more. Even Adrian will use it against me to try to scare me sometimes, and it works because I'm that scared of this movie. And that movie is The Grudge. And I mean all three of the like original American The Grudge movies and also the Japanese one, Ju-on. All of them equally scare me, besides the new one, whatever that crap was. I don't even know what it was called. I think it was just The Grudge, but it was like the remake that came out in, what was it? Like 2019, I want to say. Maybe it was even 2020 at the beginning. I don't know. It was really bad though. I mean, like the first three in the trilogy that came out, and then Ju-on. Both Kyoko, the main chick, and the little cat boy scare me equally so bad that every time I watch this movie, I'm like paranoid. I'm gonna see them out of the corner of my eye. When I think of scenes in the movie of either one of them, I get like chills and I get creeped out still. And I have a lot of people make fun of me because they're like, well, why that one? Why that movie? That movie's stupid. That movie's dumb. Not to me. I wish that I thought this movie was dumb because I'm scared. Also, if you're a Buffy fan, Sarah Michelle Gellar is in 1 and 2. And honestly, I have liked the Grudge movies since a very young age, and I've honestly always been a little bit of a Sarah Michelle Gellar fan because of The Grudge, funny enough, amongst other horror movies that she's been in. But I feel like that was one of the only parts of the movie that just didn't creep me out, was the fact she was in it. Everything else from the age of like 8 when I first saw them has horrified me. I think the first time I ever watched The Grudge, I almost pissed myself. So it is that movie. I honestly wish there was more horror movies that made me feel the way that The Grudge makes me feel. And I'm glad there's not. Actually, Adrian even asked me if I would ever get a tattoo of her, and I was like, fuck no, what? So she can like come alive and come out of my leg? Like, or yeah, my leg, because that's where I get my horror pieces? Like, no thank you. And honestly, if you know any good Japanese horror, recommend them to you, girl, because I really like Japanese horror. I think that, in my opinion, it's the scariest genre of horror. And I'm sure that I've also seen other Japanese horror movies that have creeped me out, although I can't think of the name or think of any off the top of my head. So I think that's definitely like my type of scary movie that actually creeps me out. So please don't judge me. I know my number one is a little weird. And there are a lot of people who do agree as well. So hopefully I reach my target audience of people who also agree that The Grudge is horrifying. So that concludes this video. Like I said, please comment down below things that scare you horror movie wise, and I will be in the comments talking to you all. Thank you so much for watching this. I love you guys so much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.